beams on. My leather black jeans on. My by any means on. Part and I'm getting my scream on.
She also, before we start, you say she's not only the head of programmatic, but as of today, you're also
yes, today.
Also the head of ad ops.
Yes, digital ad
So
operations.
that's
right.
very interesting, and it's going to come up in the conversation.
In a couple minutes,
got some applause back there. Great. So PMPs no longer new kid on the block. They've been around for a while. What's changed? Like what would you say is sort of the big difference now versus 5, 6 years ago?
Sure. So I think it has grown for us a decent amount as a business. I think we're seeing a lot more where we are dealing directly with brands that are doing it in-house as opposed to using a trading desk or going through the agency. So we're seeing a lot more of that. We're definitely seeing just growth in demand overall. We have a lot more partners that are interested in just opening up private marketplaces with us.
Great. So more interest from partners, and a lot more of this stuff is going internal. Are any of the sticking points that we've been talking about for a while still there? What are the big ones still?
Scale. Sure. Amount of buy, amount of spend in the private marketplace. We talked about that a lot this morning with the publisher town hall. We're still, not seeing a lot of scale in each private marketplace necessarily.
Right. So define scale. Is this scale in the number of partners that you want to work with, or scale versus how much activity is
activity and revenue?
Right. So where is that problem coming from?
It depends. I think sometimes maybe private marketplaces they're not seeing the scale depending on where it sits in your stack. I think third-party, data layers, multiple data layers, frequency capping, all of those things obviously play a role in that.
Right. But what are you seeing most? If you have one of these things that's not getting as much activity, what's usually?
Sometimes it's not a good match necessarily with the pool of inventory or things like that, or we're noticing a lot of times when we use first-party data in the private marketplaces, and then a buyer is using third-party data on top of that obviously that's limiting the scale.
Right. So the more data you're overlaying, the smaller it's going to be. How transparent is it when you go and you're going to them and saying, we're not seeing what we? Is it a matter? Because is it the question of like managing expectations?
I think that's some of it. I think that the transparency varies a lot. I think a lot of other publishers would say the same thing, that buyer to buyer, the transparency varies. I think sometimes when we work more directly with the brand, the transparency in our experience seems to be a little bit better, understanding their KPIs and what they're trying to accomplish. I think that's a little easier.
Why is that? Why are the brands easier to work with directly?
I don't know. It's just been our experience so far. I think you're just closer to it. I think sometimes if there's an agency and then a programmatic team, and then sometimes you get the DSP involved for the private marketplace, I think it's just maybe a lot of people in between the actual KPIs of the plan.
What about technical challenges? Are those still, are we ironing out all the kinks just in getting stuff to connect properly?
I don't think so.
No,
I mean, I think that sometimes they're silly little things, right? Like maybe you didn't whitelist all the advertisers, or you weren't aware of all the advertisers that were going through that particular private marketplace, or things like that. Definitely, sometimes you have hiccups if you're not seeing delivery.
And this is a situation where it's certainly easier to find the right person to talk to,
Sure.
like you mentioned before, when you're working directly with the brands.
Yep.
What are you seeing from publishers? Are you seeing the same level of interest and sophistication on the publisher side as you are on the buy side?
I think both. I mean, I think it's a situation.
Depends.
Yeah, it totally depends. I mean, a lot of us are, there's a huge publishing, group here. A lot of people that are publishers, and I would say that everybody is at varying levels of sophistication, but most people are pretty deeply involved in the private marketplace piece.
Sure. Looking at the challenge board, the question of PMPs it came up a lot. And one of the posts on there it has a very, very specific thing. It's getting PMP spend up.
Yes.
Right. We were just talking about that. What's worked for you in terms of getting more activity?
I think, to be totally honest, we have a handful that really work, and then a way longer list that don't. Right now, I don't know if I could totally pinpoint why they work better than other ones. I think just certain partners we've just had better luck with as far as matching what they're looking for and needing. The inventory performs well. They're increasing the spend, and there are still a lot that are just really low spend and not performing.
Is this something that you've gotten better at evaluating from the beginning, saying, well, this probably won't work, so let's not do it? Are you ever in the situation where you're turning partners down?
No.
Never.
We never turn partners down. No, we just set up the deal IDs and then no one spends in them. That's kind of how we roll. So, no, we don't ever not take a deal. But I will say, I think data has helped a little bit. Publishers, a lot of us now are also using DMPs, doing data matches ahead of time to see if there's overlap. Sometimes sets expectation on whether it's going to be a good fit, things like that. I think if we could get to that place, it definitely would make that a little easier.
Right. It's a big part of making this work, making sure you have your data stuff figured out as well. You need to have the DP set up. And
I don't think that's the only thing.
Sure.
I just think that sometimes maybe takes some of it out of the mix and allows you to actually see if this is a good fit and if what the buyer's looking for is what you have. And all those good things.
And what are they looking for? When someone's coming to work with you on PMP at Tribune, what are they usually looking to? Where does it fit
If they tell us, then,
so
and I think that's part of
they're
it.
not
Sometimes
telling
there's not a ton of transparency, and sometimes that was maybe a little short-sighted. Sometimes there's not a lot of transparency, and that's an issue, right? So trying to understand what their frequency capping is, what data are they using, what are they targeting, and there's not always full transparency there. And then that's difficult, right? Because then when you're trying to figure out why it's not working, you're kind of missing a piece of that puzzle.
Right. Let's talk organization, because now you are, as I mentioned earlier, in charge of both the programmatic side and the ad up side. What was the thinking behind bringing those things?
So I think as our business changes, we're not really looking at our business as separate channels anymore, right? We're looking at it as programmatic as just being another vehicle in how to execute budgets from the buyers. So I think the integration of the two of those is really important, and I think that it's going to allow us just to be a lot more flexible.
So historically, they've been very, very separate.
I mean, we are supported by our ad ops organization, but yes, I mean, essentially, it's always been a little siloed. Direct sold goes through our ad operations organization, and then all of programmatic kind of lives in the same place.
Right. Where do the PMPs fit in with just your priorities?
Sure. Yeah. So we actually recently launched Rubicon's Fastlane header bidding. So we actually just kind of went through and redid our prioritization and where everything sits. So now we kind of don't make the distinction anymore that we have programmatic inventory, we just have inventory. So we're definitely integrated throughout all of our ad priorities with our Rubicon tags to allow competition at multiple price points.
And was that a challenge? Like, how does that influence how just sales works? Because you always get into the question of one of the challenges to programmatic is just figuring out how to incentivize salespeople to think of that as something they want to sell.
Sure. I mean, for us, it's also about rate. I mean, it's mostly about yield and rate and trying to put that price pressure across all of our inventory. We're hoping that it puts price pressure even on our own direct sales team to have them value that inventory and price correctly. But also, we're trying to open it up so that it isn't this separate, scary thing. It's just another way of transacting.
Sure. Was that an education process?
Ongoing.
Yeah.
Ongoing. Yeah, for sure.
Where are you now in that process?
I mean, I would say that we're there. I think it's a ongoing. As everything, we all know everything changes in our industry constantly. So I think it's the same thing with education and getting the sales organization. Understanding it's just a constant process.
Sure. So we have a few minutes left, but I have to ask about header bidding.
Okay.
Because it's come up a lot. It's, as was mentioned before,
it's not what we signed up for. No, I'm kidding.
Where are we on that? I mean, is this something that's just being hyped up? What's your take on where
we don't hype things up in our industry? So it is very hyped up. We have been live 1 week. And so far the results are great. We're seeing a lot of lift in our open exchange inventory. We're seeing a lot more scale in our private marketplaces. So, I would say initial is good. It takes, I think, a lot of work right now to figure out the right setup for that. So I would say it is still infancy stage for me, at least.
What's your take on where all this interest is coming from? What's driving it? Among publishers. I understand why.
In header bidding?
I understand why the ad tech side would be driving.
It's the new thing. No, there's interest for a lot of reasons. I think, allowing that unified auction, allowing competition, allowing, kind of rate pressure inside all of your inventory. For us, it's about yield.
Right.
It's about allowing our private marketplaces that might be priced the same as a direct sales campaign, the opportunity to deliver there, because for us, these private marketplaces aren't remnant campaigns anymore. They're a real business, and it might be the only way you're getting that direct business anymore, right? So if you look at a Target or someone else like that, that's how they've chosen to transact with you. Shouldn't that have the same opportunity to compete with an IO campaign?
Right.
Is more what it's about.
How much, I meant to ask this earlier, how much, could you put a number to how much you're getting on the PMP side?
No.
How about in terms of growth?
In terms of growth, sure, we've grown 50% this year, but that's off of a small number, right? So let's just be real.
Right, that's math,
I would say, we could say any given month, we're anywhere from, all of our open exchange inventory, we're anywhere from 15% to 35% private marketplaces. And I know that skews greatly publisher to publisher, but that's about what we're looking at. And it depends. And, unfortunately, with kind of how this is right now, one deal could take you down to 15% because it's your biggest buyer, right? So if they kind of go dark for a month or something. So it's not a great number, a measure, I would say, right now, but there's growth there.
Cool. Well, we got a few minutes for questions. If anyone has any questions for Lori?
Oh, no.
I'm not seeing any.
No. Oh, God.
Hi, Lori. Thanks. That's just wonderful up there. How is your team structured, or what systems do you have in place to manage deal health once deals are live and to make sure that they keep spending?
Sure. We actually have a yield team, and our yield team takes a look at deal health and takes a look at also what we see in the open auction and tries to find areas of opportunity for our teams for private marketplace. So our yield team spends a lot of time in deal health. Make sure that they keep spending, make sure that everything's going well, opportunity to renegotiate rate if there's a lot of performance, and kind of provide insights into the open exchange inventory as well. They do not. They could, I guess. Actually, I take that back. They might, either the desk or the DSP or things like that. Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Where do you see most of your focus going in terms of the deals that are being successful already, or all those deals like you mentioned that are just kind of sitting there not doing much?
Where do I see my focus as far as spending my time?
In terms of trying to continue the relationship, start a relationship, build a relationship, make more revenue from that deal?
Yeah, that's hard. I think we joked back in the back when we were doing our prep that if we had $1 for every deal ID that we set up that didn't transact or make a lot of money, it wouldn't really matter. We would just have the dollar. But it's that I didn't get in the PMP. So I think that is a tough thing for us right now, is figuring out kind of how to focus our energy. I think every publisher here has probably set up a bunch of deal IDs that are just kind of sitting there, and we've just been kind of skating to the puck right now, and just where there's opportunity, I think, where our peers are seeing opportunities too. A lot of us share who they're doing deals with and things like that, and I think that's really helpful. Like I said, our yield team spends a lot of time looking at what's going on in the open auction. Is there opportunity there? So I think for us, it's more, I would say our energy is more on prospecting right now. The deals that we've set up and things like that aren't really transaction. There's a lot of just kind of follow-up every once in a while, but it can't be a focus. Otherwise, we would just get bogged down and not cut any new deals.
Great. All right, we are out of time. Thank you,
Thanks.
Lori.
Thank you.